Ever wondered why the Berlin Wall, a symbol of division and conflict, came into existence? The story begins in the aftermath of World War II, when Berlin, like much of Europe, was a city in ruins. As the war ended, the Allied powers, namely the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union, divided the city into 4 sectors. East Berlin went to the Soviets, while the West was shared by the other 3. However, ideological differences soon turned these allies into adversaries. The democratic West and the communist East became embroiled in a bitter power struggle, setting the stage for a confrontation that would define the second half of the 20th century, the Cold War. As tensions escalated, Berlin turned into the front line of this global standoff. The city was split in 2, with each half embodying the principles and ideologies of its respective bloc. Thus began the tale of 2 Berlins, set against the backdrop of a world divided. Fast forward to 1961, a wall rises in the heart of Berlin. Amidst the bustling life of this vibrant city, an exodus was underway. East Germans, desperate for the freedoms and opportunities of the West, were fleeing their homes by the thousands. This mass departure was a glaring indictment of the East's repressive regime. In response, East Germany made a drastic decision. Overnight, the city's lifeblood, its people, its culture, its very spirit, was walled off. The Berlin Wall, a concrete and barbed wire monolith, stood as a stark barrier between East and West. The construction of this barrier was more than just physical. It seeped into the minds and hearts of the Berliners, dividing families, friends, and communities. The psychological impact was as profound as the physical one. Lives were disrupted, dreams were shattered, and the city's vibrant spirit was stifled. As the wall went up, the city's heart was cleaved in 2. 2 sides of the same city, 2 vastly different realities. Picture this, East Berlin, where life was marked by surveillance and repression. The state had eyes everywhere, and freedoms were restricted. Residents lived under the watchful gaze of the Stasi, East Germany's secret police. Fear became a constant companion, and self-expression a luxury few could afford. Now let's journey across the wall to West Berlin. Here, prosperity and freedom were the order of the day. The economy was booming, democracy was thriving, and cultural exchange was flourishing. The West was a beacon of hope for those on the other side, a tantalizing glimpse of what life could be. Yet this prosperity did not come without its challenges. The presence of the wall was a constant reminder of the division, casting a long shadow over the city's success. Berlin, a city divided, reflected a world in conflict. The wall, more than concrete and barbed wire, became a symbol of an era. It stood as a physical embodiment of the Iron Curtain, the metaphorical divide that cleaved Europe into 2 distinct spheres influenced by the United States and the Soviet Union. As a monolith of division, the Berlin Wall was more than just a barrier separating East from West Berlin. It was a stark representation of the ideological chasm that ran through the heart of the Cold War. On one side, the democratic West, championing freedom and capitalism. On the other, the communist East, upholding the principles of socialism and state control. The wall was a tangible symbol of these contrasting ideologies, a silent sentinel bearing witness to the struggles, the confrontations, and the tensions of a world caught in the throes of the Cold War. And so, for nearly 3 decades, the wall stood as a stark reminder of a world divided by ideology. For many, the wall was not an end but a challenge to overcome. In the shadow of the Berlin Wall, tales of daring escapes and tragic encounters took shape. Stories of resourceful individuals who braved the impossible, tunneling under the wall's cold concrete, scaling its grim facade, or charging through checkpoints in a desperate pursuit of freedom. These were not just attempts at crossing a physical barrier, but acts of defiance against a system that sought to confine their dreams and aspirations. One such tale is of a young East Berliner who, in the cover of night, swam across the Spree River, dodging patrol boats and searchlights. Another is of families who dug tunnels, spending months in the darkness, only to emerge on the other side into the light of freedom. These stories are a testament to the indomitable human spirit and its ceaseless pursuit of liberty. For every wall, there are those who dream of what lies beyond. As the 1980s dawned, winds of change swept across Eastern Europe. a cocktail of factors began to chip away at the seemingly unshakable foundation of communism. The region was grappling with economic stagnation. Industries, once the pride of communist regimes, were becoming outdated and uncompetitive on the global stage. At the same time, political dissent was simmering. Underneath the surface, a wave of dissatisfaction was growing among the citizens, fed by the stark contrast between their living conditions and those in the West. The iron grip of the state was starting to loosen. And then there was the influence of Soviet reforms. The policies of perestroika, or restructuring, and glasnost, or openness, introduced by Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, were seeping into Eastern Europe. These reforms were not just about economic and political changes, but a shift in mindset, a break from the old ways. Change was on the horizon and the wall's days were numbered. In the midst of change, a new leader emerged with a vision for the future. Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet Union's final leader, introduced two transformative policies, perestroika and glasnost. Perestroika, or restructuring, sought to overhaul the stagnant Soviet economy by introducing market-like reforms, while glasnost, meaning openness, aimed to increase transparency and freedom of speech within Soviet society. These seemingly radical reforms were meant to rejuvenate the Soviet Union, but they inadvertently sparked a wave of change that would sweep across Eastern Europe. Gorbachev's policies allowed for a more open discussion about the Soviet Union's problems and shortcomings. This newfound freedom of expression, coupled with the economic changes, ignited a desire for change in the Eastern Bloc. Unwittingly, Gorbachev had set the stage for the unthinkable, the fall of the Berlin Wall. With openness and restructuring, the seeds of change were sown. People united, voices raised, the power of protest reshaped the world. At the heart of the shifting tides in Eastern Europe were the people, ordinary citizens who dared to stand up against the status quo. They gathered in squares, marched on streets, held placards high and voices higher. They were the lifeblood of the Solidarity movement in Poland, a trade union that evolved into a beacon of resistance against communist rule. They fueled the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, a peaceful protest that echoed with the call for democracy and human rights. And in East Germany, they assembled en masse, their peaceful protests a powerful testament to their longing for freedom. It was their collective voice that ultimately led to the opening of the Berlin Wall. These mass demonstrations and popular uprisings were not just about political change. They were about human spirit, resilience, and the pursuit of freedom. In the face of oppression, the human spirit proved indomitable. November 9th, 1989, a date etched in history, the day when the wall fell. It was a day of jubilation, a day of freedom, a day that marked the end of an era. The Iron Curtain that had once divided a city, a country, and indeed the world, had finally been lifted. East German authorities, bending to the will of the people, announced the opening of the Berlin Wall. Thousands of East Berliners, filled with a sense of trepidation and exhilaration, crossed freely into West Berlin. The sight of families reunited, tears of joy streaming down their faces, was a powerful testament to the indomitable human spirit. The fall of the wall was not just about bricks and mortar tumbling down. It was a symbol of the end of division, a beacon of hope for a unified Germany. And as the world watched, it was a poignant reminder of the power of freedom. On that fateful day, the wall fell and a city was reborn. The wall may have fallen, but its legacy lives on. The Berlin Wall, a concrete reminder of division and conflict, now serves as a poignant symbol of unity and resilience. Its fall heralded a new era of European integration, fostering unprecedented cooperation among nations that were once at loggerheads. But the wall's legacy isn't confined to geopolitics alone. It has also shaped our understanding of democracy and human rights. The citizens of East Berlin, who once lived under the shadow of oppression, showed us the true value of these ideals. They risked everything for a taste of freedom, for a chance to live in a democratic society. Their struggle reminds us that democracy and human rights aren't given, they're fought for, and they're worth fighting for. As we move forward, let's remember the lessons of the Berlin Wall. Let's strive to overcome division, to build a more peaceful, united world. The Berlin Wall, once a symbol of division, now stands as a testament to the human spirit's desire for freedom and unity.